Welcome to this strategy-rich edition of The One Thing podcast, hosted by Ron Sheets. On each episode, Ron introduces you to the amazingly successful entrepreneurs from his Rolodex who reveal the simple truths behind the one marketing strategy they rely on to produce extraordinary results. Each episode is guaranteed to expose you to a proven approach for producing high-value and highly profitable business. Welcome to this episode of The One Thing podcast.
Hello, everybody. It's Ron Sheets, and welcome to another edition of the One Thing Business Podcast. On today's show, we're going to cover a subject that I think is critical for every business, and that is sales or selling, on how to sell. And there are a lot of people that don't think that they're salespeople, when in fact, what you do, that really is the business of selling what your deliverable is. And today I'm excited. I have a guest with us, as you can see on screen. Those that are watching this by video, is Heather Nottingham. And Heather and I know one another because we're at a mastermind group together with other successful business people in a variety of other different businesses. So a quick little, insight as to who Heather is. Heather's the co-founder and the vice president of training for All-Star Dental Academy, which is a top online coaching and training company specifically for dental practices. Now, you may not be in dentistry, but what's really important to pay attention to, and why I've asked Heather to come with us, is that before she got into dentistry, she was in retail. She was a retail sales trainer and a manager for giant companies like Bloomingdale's and Spade. So after she left that and went into dentistry, in her dental practice that she was working in, she became the dental new patient coordinator, and she took the practice from $1 million to $2.4 million in less than 18 months, all on the backs of selling and what we're going to talk about today. So Heather has over 24 years worth of customer service, training, and phone experience. And specifically in All-Star Dentistry, in All-Star Dental, she's designed the All-Star Phone Success course, customer service course, as well as the Great Call process, which is a trademarked process for handling phone calls on the intake using service-based approach to convert those callers into appointments, or in short, selling. So Heather, thanks for being with us today. I'm really looking forward to this, and I think you're going to bring a lot of value to us. So I appreciate you being with us today.
Well, wow. Thank you so much, Ron. And thanks for having me on. And that I was like, ooh, that person sounds impressive.
Yeah, well, I read it just like you wrote it. No.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm happy to help and go over any questions that you have.
Sure. I appreciate that. Why don't we start? I mean, I gave a little bit of a setup in that, but why don't we start? Why don't you give us a little background on you, and specifically your background in selling? Because I mentioned about Bloomingdale's and Spade and that, but I think it's helpful to understand that better. So how it is relevant to what we're talking about today.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Bloomingdale's, Spade theory, all of those things were definitely impactful and relevant. But if I had to think about when my sales background started, I take it all the way back to when I was like 5 years old. And, little Heather, she wanted to be the top Girl Scout cookie salesperson or world's finest chocolate salesperson. And I remember telling my mom that I wanted to do that. And she was like, okay, if you want to do that, I'm not going to help you. I mean, she came with me, so I was safe when I went door to door or in front of Publix or wherever we were doing it. And she'd say, but I'm not going to help you. You need to research your product. You need to be, approachable and friendly. You need to understand objections and what objections people are going to have. So she kind of have a little bit of a sales background as well. And so did my grandfather. I mean, he always worked in different stores. But she was like, you just have to prepare yourself. And I think that going back to when I was a kid and doing that, I realized that it's not about like we talked about before, closing a sale or making a sale. It's really about forging relationships with people. I think that no matter where I've worked, whether it's Bloomingdale's or Express, or various places, or when I was 5, you're talking to people, you're meeting people, you're understanding their needs. And so that's really where that started, is just making a connection with people and understanding their needs and being helpful.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah,
makes sense, and I think that you covered an important point there. Is that it's not about closing sales. It's about the process of getting people into what it is that you offer, and
right.
selling the old adages, features, advantages, benefits. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in today's society, we've, as salespeople, as you term yourself and I term myself, we've come far beyond just selling features, advantages, and benefits,
Mm-hmm.
because today, it's a lot more about the experience.
Yes.
So, with that said, when maybe not so much when you were selling cookies, door
Yeah.
to door, but when do you find that the selling starts?
Starts right away. I mean, with dental offices or any type of business, for example, it starts really with their marketing. So, you got to have good marketing people like, you and others do. It's you're selling, you're painting a picture of the company. And then when people are attracted to that marketing, they're then expecting for the call or the next interaction to align with that. So if your website or whatever your marketing is saying is, we're the best, we're going to take good care of you, you're going to get a 5-star experience, but then you call the office, it's like that has to align. So always it starts with your marketing, your people, your branding, and then from there, the next thing that happens is they're going to ultimately pick up the phone or send an email or text or however your business interacts with people. And then that is like the best way to make a good or bad first impression,
Hmm.
is how are you handling that? How are you handling that call? How are you handling that email? So it really just continues from there. And if you can't get it right, and I think people typically form an opinion and a judgment in the first 7 seconds, something like that, maybe even less. If you don't do a good job with that, it's not gonna move forward.
Yeah. I
So,
I having come my background being in live entertainment as a magician and a comedy hypnotist, I
right.
always kind of liken it to the theater, to stage, in that,
Mm-hmm.
you have a front of stage and you have a back of stage.
Right.
And the front of stage is what everybody comes and they want to see. They want to see the show, they want to see the entertainment, they want to see the experience. But in reality, in the business, what drives the business and moves the business is what happens behind the stage, which
Mm-hmm.
is all the chaos and all of the and that kind of stuff. And not to say that a business is a show, but in reality it is,
Yeah.
because people want the experience. I remember one of my mentors always said that I followed, and he says, "Don't tell me about the labor pains, just show me the baby."
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
all about what's in it for them. And
Yes.
like you said, the selling starts because it's all got to align. And
Mm-hmm.
in dentistry, which we're both heavily involved with, I find with dentists, they wait, so they get the patient or the prospective patient, and then
Mm-hmm.
they wait until that patient comes into the practice,
Right.
until they start the show or they start
Yeah.
the experience, where sometimes that's where the chaos happens, and so they
Right.
have to really to build that up. So in what you teach
Mm-hmm.
and what you do, day in and day out in your position, describe the selling activities, if you can break it down kind of into the mechanical of it. Describe, the selling activities that are in your business and how it translates really across all businesses.
Yeah, I mean, in all businesses, like I said, they're going to typically reach out in some way, shape, or form. So they're going to call, they're going to email, they're going to text. Most of the time, when people are more serious, they pick up the phone. And so we have to be ready when they call. I can't tell you how many offices that I call just to make an appointment. For example, I had to make an appointment for my foot because I hurt my foot.
Hmm.
And I call the office and you ask, I want to make a new patient appointment. And they act like they've never had somebody call their office to make a new patient appointment before. It's like a lot of offices will say, okay. And I'm like, is it okay?
Yeah.
Like they're just not ready. They're not prepared. They don't practice. They're not training. So that's the first thing, is being ready, being prepared, being excited, and being willing to help that person the best that we can.
Hmm.
So we created, like you mentioned, the great call process. That's something that I
Hmm.
felt was really important, because there's so many different consultants and coaches out there, and they do a great job of theoretically talking about, this is what you say and this is what you do. But I feel like for team members, they really needed more of a recipe book, step by step, systematic approach to answering the phone. So the great call process is like, we're not scripting it. We're giving them suggested verbiage, but we are making sure that they're doing certain steps in a certain order. It's kind of like if you think about a key, a lock with a key. In order
Hmm.
to unlock that lock, you have to put in the proper combination in the right order. So the great call process is like that, where if somebody calls up and they start asking the price, that would be the engage step. And a lot of times team members will go right to engaging the patient. They'll answer the price question, or they'll answer immediately, and there's no rapport.
Yeah.
So the lock and key fails because they're like, okay, what is the price for that? It's $1,200. Okay, that's too expensive. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So we haven't gone in the right order. So the great call process is great, being an acronym for greeting, rapport, engage the patient, ask for the appointment, and take information. And so we want to greet them. We want to acknowledge them. We want to find out how they heard about us, see if they're an existing patient or client or a new potential person. We want to capture their phone number and all of that. Then we move into rapport, which is really getting to know them. We're not talking about us yet. They don't care about us.
Hmm.
They want to know their issues, their problems, and how we're going to listen to them. We're going to take the time for them. So we're building rapport, we're understanding their needs, we're getting a sense of what they're wanting and what they're interested in. Then from rapport, and we're asking open-ended questions as well. Then from rapport, we're moving into engage, which is now we know you, you like us, we like you, we have a connection. Now we're going to answer your questions. We're going to sizzle, which is like, you've heard of sizzle, don't share what is it? The steak?
It's
Share
don't
the
sell the steaks, sell the
There
sizzle.
you go. Yeah, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about like all the romantic stuff, all the fun stuff about how we're going to help them, and really painting a picture of why we're going to be the best for them. So mirroring back the things that they said that were important to them, we're mirroring back how we have those things and how we're going to best help them. And then asking for the appointment. A lot of people, when it comes down to it, they don't ask for the sale. They don't ask for the appointment, or let's go ahead and get you scheduled. Let's go ahead and get you signed up. When are you looking to get started? Let's move forward, because
Hmm.
they're afraid of the rejection. So we're doing that just to kind of see, if we've sufficiently built rapport, it shouldn't be an issue to move forward with that, because we have a relationship with them. And then finally, we take the detailed information. A lot of offices, businesses will try and get all this information in the beginning. Name, date, birth date, social security number. They're like, whoa, I don't even know you. I don't know if I want to make an appointment or work with you yet.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
not
not
going to give
ready
you
to
my
marry
ad.
you. I only want to date.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you my address. I just want you to answer my question.
Yep.
So we do that at the end once we're making the appointment. So that's the aspect of, the initial part of the sales, quote unquote, sales process, with rapport being the most important aspect. And then after that, if they for some reason don't make an appointment, then we go into follow up. So we're going to have our process, whether it's email follow up, text follow up, phone call follow up, and a system for that. So, there's so many different things in the sales process. The ultimate goal being to talk to them, to be helpful, to get them to continue moving forward in the process.
Right.
So
It's
that's,
starting with the end in mind first, is that they come in and you
yes,
want to get them as a client or a patient, and
yes,
these are the steps that go through. Um,
exactly.
um, I, since since you and I talked about doing this podcast and that I came across an experience I want to share with everybody and get your feedback on, or really get your input on, because what you just described with your great process, I witnessed. And people may think that this isn't something that they can do in their business. I think that's a common thought process that people have. Oh, this wouldn't work for me. My business is different.
Sure.
But a couple of weeks ago, and you're going to see what I find is interesting and why I want to tell this. You're going to see in what I'm about to describe what you just laid out in great. So a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were at a what I term as a craft store. Well, what they do is you go in and you're able to pick your porcelain tchotchke or whatever, and then paint it, and then so it's simple. It's just a retail store. And we went in, and I had the chance to sit in this store for 2 hours while my wife and daughter painted, and I read. But it gave me the opportunity to like pay attention and watch. And I think that that's an important thing people should do when they go into other businesses. But anyhow, here's the process. Here's what I witnessed in this small little retail store in a strip shopping center. When a group, and usually they came in groups, when a group came in, the associate came up to them and greeted them at the door and immediately said, "Hi, welcome to Maggie and Ellie's. Are you here to paint, or are you picking up?" Meaning that they'd already been there and they painted. And if the person said they're picking up, they went and took care of that. But if the person said, "Well, we're here to paint, or we're interested in painting," great. My name is Ron, and welcome to Maggie and Ellie's. We're glad that you're here. I see that there's 4 of you. Are there going to be 4 of you painting, or are you expecting any more? Oh, no, it's just the 4 of us. Okay, great. Come with me. I've got a table right back here for you. Go ahead, set down your stuff, put your coats on the chair, and come with me. Over here is where we have our paints and our brushes, and then over here is where we have all the stuff. And when you select the piece you want to do, on the bottom is the price. Now, that price includes that piece as well as all the paint you want, the brushes. I'm going to bring you water, and so on and so forth. And after you're done with it, you bring it to us. We're going to take it, we're going to glaze it and professionally kiln it, and it'll be ready in about a week. Okay. So if you have any questions, that was their process with every person. And I thought it was brilliant because, like, within a matter of moments, they're sitting down and occupying a table.
Yeah.
They're not walking out the door.
Right.
And this is a small little retail shop. Now, I haven't had the chance to talk to the owner to find out if she has done this intentionally or if it's just by natural osmosis that she knows to do it. I think it's probably she knows to do it.
Right.
But, there's a case of a retail store. And if they can do it, anybody can incorporate this into their business and so forth.
Yeah.
What do you find in all of the businesses that you've worked with? What do you find is required to make that shift in people's minds to adapt or adopt a selling philosophy or principle?
I think it has a lot to do with the people that you find to work for you. I mean, people make a big difference, right? We have a hiring service at All Star as well. So we help offices hire team members, and the team that you have, and obviously ultimately it starts with the visionary of the company, because they set the tone for how the rest of the business is going to run. So if they don't care about customer service, why is anybody else going to? So for us, we're huge raving fans of having amazing service. That's just part of our philosophy. And so everybody else that we find needs to have that. If somebody doesn't have that, then they're not going to be the right fit, because we are really like crazy about following up with people super fast. Like if I can't get to somebody, like I saw that there were a couple calls that came in for me this morning, and I knew I was having this podcast. So I immediately forwarded them to somebody on my team. And I was like, call these people right away, because we like to call people back. If we don't answer right away, we call people back within an hour. So I would have the company's vision, your values, what's important to you, and then find people that resonate with that and that are going to carry that out. Because I think that sometimes you see a business and you can tell that they just don't care.
Mhm.
Like in that company, they obviously care. And those are the types of businesses that people want to work with. I feel like no matter how much technology and all these different things that we have as time moves forward, people still really appreciate good customer service. It's like, and people are willing to pay more for that. I feel like that's why there are hotels like the Ritz-Carlton, because you can see that, yes, you pay more, but you're getting better value.
Mhm.
So, and it's training also. It doesn't happen by magic. I know maybe you can hypnotize them and have them do it without, without them training. But for the most part, the companies like Chick-fil-A and, others like Ritz-Carlton and things like that you see that have great customer service, it doesn't happen by accident. They're intentionally training. They're training all the time. They're constantly reminding their team of their philosophy and their values. So I think all of that goes into it for sure. And
Yeah.
then just finding people that like doing what they do, because there are a number of offices and businesses that I see that have somebody on the phone or on the front line that really don't like doing it. It's like, well, what's your favorite thing? Oh, I really like filing charts, or I really like doing insurance. Do you like answering the phone? I do it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
Whoever you have as the front line representative of the business, answering the phone, standing in the front of the store, greeting, that person needs to love what they do, because otherwise it will be apparent that they don't.
Yeah. I teach that you have to have, when you're talking with people, you have to have enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beyond the fake it until you make it, but it's kind of corny, but enthusiasm, the word enthusiasm ends with IASM, which
Mm.
stands for I am sold myself.
Mm.
Because as I find, I think you hit it on the head. People are expecting poor service.
Mm-hmm.
You
Especially
know,
nowadays.
yeah. And the minute you hit them with something that's even more than that, it's above it. I mean, immediately you've differentiated yourself than everybody else. So, um,
Yeah.
Heather, with that, we can learn how to sell. So, like your great process, you can
Mm-hmm.
teach them those mechanics. But I
Yes.
think the thing that's really important for people, and weigh in on this for me, that
Mm-hmm.
what you just said is hiring the right people. It's beyond just the mechanics. It is about the finesse of those mechanics.
Yes. Yeah. It's totally, I mean, you can train people. Some people just have never been taught. So
Mhm.
I think had I not been taught from a young age, if I still have that in me, I can learn it. There are just some people that never learned it, or they've never done it, but that doesn't mean that they can't get good at it if they are willing to learn and they're enthusiastic and they, put themselves to the test of learning the material, learning the product, whatever it is, and they have a good personality. I think more than anything, and one of the things that our clients, dentists ask for is, I don't even necessarily care if the person has this much experience or these skills. I want them to have a good attitude and a good personality.
Mhm.
That goes really far. So I think with those, and it's funny, we just my car was 14 years old. I keep my cars for a really long time. And it finally just kind of kicked the bucket because it was way too much in repairs. So we went to look for a new car. And there was this guy that's always there that we've worked with. And we said, we're going to buy the car. We're thinking about buying the car today. And he's like, you're not going to buy it today. He's like, I know you guys always just like say that. And because we look like we come in sometimes when the car was getting fixed, he's like, you're not going to buy it. You'll probably come back tomorrow or you'll change your mind. And I said, this car, because I was testing two different cars, this car that I'm driving, it feels like it's kind of pulling really heavy. And he's like, oh dear, no, you're wrong. He's like, it's not, it's not. And when I found out that the car that I was driving is actually 1,000 pounds heavier, I'm like, I knew I wasn't nuts. So we went to a different dealership, totally different experience. The guy was like enthusiastic. He was knowledgeable. He was not a pushy salesperson. He's like, I'm here to make this experience great for you. I can answer any questions. Here's my cell. We bought from him. because, and the other guy is like, sorry, but that's it. He was young. The kid was younger. He didn't have a ton of experience. The other guy had been there for like 30 years. So it really has nothing to do with how much time you've been doing it. In fact, sometimes people who've been doing things for a long time might get jaded and think, oh, I already know all this. We hear that a lot of times, like where an office or a team member has been doing it for a long time and they're like, I already know it. I already do that. But they're actually some of the worst people. So
Yeah.
I always challenge offices to constantly be training people, even if they are seasoned, because typically when somebody has been doing something a long time, they tend to get lax on things and slip into old habits and maybe not the best ways of doing things. So,
Yeah.
little training tip.
I worked with a man years ago by the name of Dave Eaton, who
Mm-hmm.
owned a chain of retail magic shops in the Orlando, Florida area.
Mm-hmm.
Dave's premise was that he hired salespeople and taught them the magic.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he hired magicians, he couldn't teach them how to sell because they were so enamored with the magic that got in their way. So
Right.
that always stuck with me is it's finding the right people in
Yes.
in that role. So keeping an eye on the clock and respecting your time, let's kind of bring this to a close. What do you see on the horizon in the future for businesses that really don't get on board with adopting this sales or selling philosophy or mentality, if you will? What do you see on the horizon for them?
It's going to be hard because as things improve, there's so much technology, there's so much competition.
Mhm.
Just speaking specifically to dentistry, I know that when, back in the day, when you were a dentist and you wanted to open up your dental office, you just put up your sign and patients would come, right? Like you would get, and then of course insurance came in and now there's so much competition. There's not, you can't go a block without seeing multiple offices, sometimes in the same building. And you can't, then there's corporate. So of
Mhm.
course, then, whatever your industry you're in, you'll have a mom and pop shop, and then you have this corporate that you're trying to compete with. The thing that corporate and big companies oftentimes have a really difficult challenge competing with is service
Mhm.
because they have such a massive thing. It's hard to make changes. They're hiring typically on volume. They're not training as much. They have turnkey systems, but it's not focused around the person. It's focused more around just making a profit.
Mhm.
And so I feel like just the more you can train and the more you can set your company apart by having somebody that knows how to communicate with people. That's the bottom line. People want to get that experience. They're willing to pay if they have that experience. And if you have two offices that are offering a similar product and a similar service at similar prices, but one has a great experience and one is just
Yeah.
they're going to go with the one that's the better experience. So I feel like, and because people have lowered their expectations, when they get great service nowadays, it's like they're not going anywhere else. It's easier, much easier to keep an existing customer than it is to get a new customer because marketing and advertising, right? So like if we can get those new people and keep them because we have great people and great service, and a lot of that involves sales, then and again, it goes back to relationships. We don't have to keep filling up the funnel.
Right.
So I would just say always goes back to the relationship with the people, having well-trained people. All of that is going to vastly set you apart. And everything is so digital nowadays. I feel like on the one hand, people like that because it's convenient and it's easy. But on the other hand, I call businesses nowadays and nobody answers their phone. And I want to talk to somebody. So when somebody has a business where they answer their phone and you get a live, warm person, it's like, oh my goodness, like that, I'm going to you because I feel like now that's how I'm going to get taken care of. I'm willing to give you my money.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I think you hit it right on the head. It's about selling. Good selling is about relationship.
Yes.
And in reference to the digital thing where nobody talks to anybody anymore, um, as as distasteful as it is for businesses to get that call from somebody who goes on complaining about, what happened over here or at the car dealership and so forth,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
a person like yourself or like myself who is sales minded, I'm happy to listen to that because
Yeah.
in that conversation,
Yes.
rapport and relationship and connection is built. But
Yes.
I have just learned everything I need to know
To
about
not.
that person as to what their hot buttons are, as to
Yes.
and it's very simply, well, Miss Heather, if I could fix all of those things, are you ready to
Yeah.
buy today? You know,
Yeah.
and that's
Exactly.
and you're right. That's in the how would I put it? In the effort to make things convenient, we have created more obstacles to getting to the sale
Right.
because we just don't have that rapport and relationship. So very, very well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
Um, is there any last minute things that you want to add before we wrap this up? Because I really do want to respect your time, and I know you've got obligations to get to.
No, no, I appreciate it. I mean, again, like I always go back to it's sometimes people, and it's funny because when we first started All Star, I was like, ooh, sales. Sales is like a dirty word, and we don't talk about sales because I think it does still have a negative connotation. And it's funny, we're gonna have our car salesman to come on to our podcast and interview him about how to not be like a used car salesperson, because I think that's what everybody envisions. Um, and so we don't talk about it like sales, but it really is. Everything is
Mhm.
selling or, sales in some way. Somebody's selling somebody else.
Right.
And so, what I want people to think about is to change the perception of sales, that it has to be like pushy or aggressive or, dirty in some way. There are things like that, and there are companies like that for sure. But I want to change the mindset that it's more like we think about it as relationship based selling. We have something that's important, that's a value that can help somebody else. They have a need, and we're essentially just matching those two things up.
Yeah.
We're learning about them, we're helping them. And I can't remember who it was, if it was maybe Jim, I'm gonna misquote, but there was some person that said, if you believe in what you're doing, then you have a moral obligation to offer it to people.
Hmm.
So essentially, like you're not selling, you're offering them a service that can benefit them.
Right.
So whenever it's something that I'm offering, I believe in it wholeheartedly, and I don't consider it selling. I look at it as helping people make their lives better. So I want to just frame it like that. And then, sometimes team members are like, sales, I'm not a salesperson. Well, I'm not really either. I
Hmm.
just like talking to people and making a connection. And the last thing I want to point out is people might think, well, they're extra introverted and you have to be extroverted to be a good salesperson. I'm actually not extroverted. I have like my sales, like my son jokes with me. He says, "Oh, you have your phone voice,
Hmm.
your different phone voice." But I'm quite introverted, or maybe I'm like an introverted extrovert. And so you don't have to be like this loud, person to be good at sales. And in fact, people that are good listeners oftentimes are very good at sales because they listen, they're able to respond appropriately to the person and their needs, and the person feels safe and like they can trust that person.
Yeah.
So sometimes I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm too introverted to do sales." And I'm like, "You're really not. You could be really good at it if you change the mindset."
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of end it with that.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent, excellent way to end this. Um, in closing, if people want to find out more about you or they want to find out more about All Star Dental, how can they do that?
They can just go to allstardentalacademy.com. We have all of our information there. They can call me if they have questions, email me. I try to make myself available as much as possible I like talking to people. So
Yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, I get the co-founder." I'm like, "Yeah, it's important for me to have those relationships and talk to people." I kind of feel like the hostess
Yeah.
of our party. So yeah, that's the best way. And we, of course, have our YouTube podcast, our YouTube channel, all of that people can subscribe to as well.
Heather, thank you very much for taking the time to do this and for sharing everything that you did.
Sure.
Again, I appreciate you coming on, and good luck with your foot.
Thank you.
And never, as much as people don't want to go to the dentist, they don't want to go to the doctor, and God bless you on that.
Thank you, Ron.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, as I always say, go through this podcast again. The first time you go through it, you really should go through it to listen to it, to absorb it. The second time, third time, go through it with a pad of paper and a pen and take notes and really start to pull out the content on it. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. We went a little longer on time, but I think it was worth it. Thanks again. I'm Ron Sheets, and we'll see you next time on the One Thing Business Podcast.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm sure you got a lot from this episode. Join Ron and his next guest here on the One Thing Podcast.